Aloha, friends. Welcome back to the Radiate Health and Wellness podcast. So in the past few episodes, I've taken you along for the roller coaster ride I've been on. Anticipatory grief, the emotional waves that came with watching my mom slowly leave this life, and the difficult terrain that just really followed her passing. But today, I just feel the deep need to share one more story, one that continues to just stir up in my soul. So it's personal, it's raw and layered. I share it not for pity, nor to boost or call attention to myself, but because I know some of you out there can relate. I know I'm not alone. And perhaps through my vulnerability, you might find healing in your own story. This episode is about acceptance, about being seen for who you truly are, and the pain of realizing that someone you love deeply never really saw you. We're talking about the deep wounds many of us carry, especially from childhood, and how to begin healing them with compassion. So, whether you're a parent, a partner, or simply a person walking this human path, this episode is for you. Aloha! Welcome to the Radiate Health and Wellness podcast, where we explore the vibrant world of health and well-being. I'm your host, Christine D. Ross, a board-certified health and wellness coach specializing in behavior change and nutrition, and author of Discover the Adventure of You and Health Beings. Join me as we uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, and transformative insights to assist you on your journey to radiate health and wellness. So, as I have shared in previous episodes, my mom passed away recently after being diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. So when I flew back to the mainland, to Utah, to care for her and my dad, I found myself back in the home, but this time not as a child, but as the caretaker. The roles had reversed. I was there to hold them through their uncertainty, their fear, their last chapter together. And yet I couldn't shake the sadness, not just from the grief of knowing I was losing my mom, but from the grief of really knowing that she would never really know me, at least not the real me. See, she clung tightly to the image of who she wanted me to be. The obedient, sweet, perfect little Mormon girl who followed all the rules, wore the right clothes, said the right prayers, showed up at church every Sunday, held a high church calling, and believed exactly what she believed. So I tried to be that girl for so many years. I tried to please her, to fit into the mold she carved out for me. But I don't live in that mold anymore. So from the time I was about, 8 years old, I started to figure out how to live two lives. Every Sunday, I'd put on the dress, put on a pretty smile, and head to church with everyone else. But as soon as I could, I would sneak out of class and disappear. So I would hide in the bathroom, wander around the hall, just find quiet corners where no one would notice I wasn't there. Sometimes I would even sneak home, make me some nice brownies, and then just walk back to the car and pretend like I was there the whole time. So I became skilled at pretending I had gone to all my classes, pretending I was the obedient little girl who believed all the right things. I looked the right part. I said the right words. I kept the peace. But inside, I was already starting to feel the cracks between who I really was and who I was expected to be. That dance went on for years. I kept playing the part, trying to please everyone, especially my mom. I wore that mask so well that even I started to forget where it ended and where it began. But by the time I reached probably my 30s, the weight of it all just became too much. I couldn't play the game anymore. I had to take off the holy expectations, strip away the performance, and really finally live that truth of who I was. And it was a little terrifying, but freeing. I exposed myself for who I really was, not the version others wanted me to be. And since then, I've been living life on my terms, guided by my values, not somebody else's checklist. But my heart still broke each time I felt the quiet judgments from my mom, the disappointment in her voice, just the silence between us, and the subtle reminders that I'm no longer the daughter she dreamed I'd be. I've even spent the last 9 years living in Hawaii, and in all that time, my mom never came to visit. Now, there were always reasons and excuses. First, it was my dad's anxiety about traveling. Then she said they were too old to make such a long trip. Later, it was her health conditions that made flying seem impossible. So, on the surface, the excuses kind of made sense, but definitely still seemed like just vague excuses. Deep down, I knew it wasn't really about the travel. It was easier for her to hold on to the image she had of me, the daughter she hoped I'd always be, than to see how I really lived and face the woman I've actually become. A woman who starts her mornings with strong coffee and ends her days with a glass of wine. A woman who wears tank tops and shorts, who walks barefoot through the garden, who drinks tea while she writes, listens deeply to her intuition, questions everything, and no longer identifies with the faith she was raised in. You know, the normal phase of living in sin. But the daughter who once fit my mom's mold had outgrown it. And maybe seeing me in this freer, truer version of myself was just too hard for her to bear. So now that truth stings, and it still does. Because more than anything, I've always longed just for that intimate connection with her. I wanted her to truly know me. I wanted to truly know her, not just as a mother, but as a woman. I wanted to hear her deep stories, her dreams, her regrets. I craved those deep, soul touching conversations. You know, the kind where you finally see each other. But every time I tried, she'd turn away. She avoided the questions. She kept it surface level. It felt like she was purposely creating distance, retreating further into her beliefs. Maybe because in her heart, she believed we wouldn't be together for eternity. Maybe she couldn't handle the idea that her daughter had stepped off the path that she held as the only truth. So there was even a moment during those final weeks when she referred to me as her personal robot. And truthfully, that's how I felt. Like I was just there to serve her, emotionless and mechanical. She didn't seem to see me, not the soul I had become, nor the woman who returned to care for her with a full heart. I honored her. I honored her beliefs. I showed up fully for her, even though it broke my heart. I prepared all of the meals, sorted medications, helped with bathing and dressing, doing all that I could to bring comfort. But even then, my choices, especially around food and healing, felt unseen. So, 5 years ago, as I was going through my cancer journey, I made a conscious decision to cut out all carcinogenic foods and eat a diet centered on whole foods with mostly plants. So, this was not just a lifestyle preference, it was my way of choosing natural healing and prevention, my way of protecting myself from getting cancer again and preventing myself from walking the same path that my mom was walking. I didn't want to rely on radiation or toxic pills for the rest of my life. I wanted to support my body from the inside out. And yet, even as I cared for my mom daily, my mom didn't seem to support those choices. She wouldn't touch the veggie burritos I made for dinner, just the meals I carefully prepared to bring nourishment and comfort for all of us. Instead, she asked for processed foods, ham and cheesy potatoes, dishes full of the very things I was avoiding. And it hurt deeply. But I kept cooking what would support my body, especially in this time of stress and chaos. I had to. And I gave her little bits of what she was asking for. But here's the part I hesitated to share because it really stings. So, in her, which we thought were her final months, which ended up being her final week, she chose to leave her home in Utah and move into my brother's house in Hawaii, only months after he had relocated there. She was determined to live out her last days with him in Hawaii. My brother, he had stayed close to the church his entire life and held true to the values that my mom always cherished. So, in many ways, he is the shining example of the perfect son. And then one day, as he cared for her during those final days, she looked up at him and, in her soft, weak voice, said, "You are my favorite daughter." So, jokes were made, and no one else seemed to really notice what she had said, but I did. I don't share this to shame her. I share it because I know others have felt this kind of wound. The ache of never being seen or accepted by someone you love with your whole heart. The pain of showing up, doing the work, offering care and compassion, and still not being enough in their eyes. So, those days I took care of my mom. I remember sitting at the dinner table with my mom and dad, just the food growing cold as we all waited for someone to say the prayer. So, with that weak voice, my mom asked if I would bless the food. So, I whispered a quick one, the robotic, that robotic and brief one I had uttered so many times as a kid, just so we could finally eat. So, I tried to respect their traditions while still holding on to my truth. But besides honoring their beliefs, I also took care of me. I woke up early and practiced yoga, just letting movement move the emotion through my body. And afterward, I took a long, hot shower, just letting that steam soften the heaviness of the night before. And yes, my little act of rebellion. I snuck instant coffee into the cold basement room where I slept. I was a closet coffee drinker, holding my morning ritual like a teenager hiding contraband. And with each sip, I reclaimed a piece of myself. I didn't do it to defy her. I did it to stay grounded, to stay sane, to hold on to who I am in the midst of who I was expected to be. But still, the ache lingers. The ache of not being good enough, not being accepted, not being known. I am a human being, not a robot. I know it is my choice to hold on to these emotions. I can let go of all of it whenever I want to. But I don't know why, but for some reason, for now, I'm not ready to fully let go. And maybe doing this podcast episode will help me with that. But it's okay to take time. Healing does take time. So, this episode, this message is for her, my mom, and for anyone who has ever felt like they don't belong, for anyone who has lived in the shadow of someone else's expectations, for anyone who has had to break away from the mold in order to find freedom. I wasn't born to follow somebody else's script. I was born to live my own truth. And living that truth means accepting that not everyone will understand, including those we love the most. I used to be the quiet girl, the one afraid to speak, afraid to be wrong, afraid to be different. So I stayed small because I thought that was the only way to be loved. But silence was never my truth. And I could no longer live in a costume that didn't fit. So I stripped it all away, the beliefs, the rules, the pressures to conform. I walked away from the structures that once shaped me. And I found something better, myself. I let go of the need to be understood. And I leaned into the deep, sometimes lonely path of freedom. I'm not rebellious. I'm real and I'm free. And no, I don't hold resentment. Not for my mom, not for my father, not for the life I once had. I honor them for who they are. I see them in their space and respect the place they chose to stand. I don't need to change them, and I don't need them to change me because I know who I am now. I share my story because I want others to know you are not alone. If you've ever felt unseen, unheard, misunderstood, if you've ever had to choose between belonging to others and belonging to yourself, know this: your truth is worth it. You are worth it. This isn't about rejection, it's about release. Releasing what no longer fits, releasing the idea that we have to shrink ourselves to be accepted, releasing the hope that others will always come with us. I've become the woman I was always meant to be. I've stopped waiting for permission. I've stopped needing approval. I've stopped bending myself into the shapes that please other people. And in letting go, I found freedom, peace, and power. So to my mom, I love you. I forgive you. And I thank you. You gave me life, and your inability to see me gave me clarity to see myself. And to anyone listening, wherever you are on your journey, keep going, keep asking the questions, keep peeling back the layers. You're not broken, you're just blooming. Trust the process, trust yourself. You don't need to be understood to be whole. You don't need to be fit. You don't need to fit in to be loved. You get to be you, unapologetically, beautifully, wholly you. So before you go, I invite you to take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what parts of your own story are asking to be seen? What parts of your story are asking to be heard? And what parts of your story are asking to be healed? You don't have to have it all figured out. Just begin listening. So if this episode starts something in you, if it reminded you of who you truly are beneath expectations, please consider sharing it with someone who might deserve to hear it too. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's someone who's still trying to find that courage to step into their truth. A single story can open a heart, soften a wound, or simply let someone know they're not alone. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss a moment of this journey together. It's an honor to walk this path beside you. And if you're ready for more support on your health and wellness journey, or if you're navigating your own unraveling and rediscovery, know that I am here as your coach. You can schedule a free consultation with me at radiate.healthandwellness.com or send an email to radiate.hw@gmail.com or find me on Facebook or Instagram. I love hearing your stories and walking alongside your growth. Also, if you're ready to go even deeper into this adventure of becoming yourself, take a look at my books, Discover the Adventure of You and Health Beams. So both are available on Amazon and my website, Radiate.HW. So mahalo for being here with me today. Thank you for choosing your healing, your heart, and your truth. So take a deep breath, let go of what no longer fits, honor the person you are becoming, and always radiate health and wellness in all that you are.